welcome to Elevating Your Sales Teams and Unleashing Hidden Potential. We've got quite a few channels joining us: LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and we're just waiting for everyone to come in now. We'll just give it 1 minute for everyone to be joining us. So please buckle up rather, and settle in for Elevating Your Sales Team and Unleashing Hidden Potential. We'll just give it 1 moment for it all to sync up. While we're waiting, make sure if you've got questions, you've got the chat open, put in the chat. Also, let us know where you're joining us from. Whatever channel you're on, just put in the chat and we will see it all here.
How's that background noise? Is it noisy, Janice?
I've also got background noises as well.
Apologies. Fan just turned on.
We are definitely live. You can hear background noise, life going on behind us. Hello, well, welcome. This is Elevating Your Sales Team, Unleashing Hidden Potential. So in the next 30-minute discussion, we are going to share more about how you can really max out your team. Again, I have the gorgeous, the wonderful Laurie Richardson, who's got years and years of experience and is going to be sharing lots and lots of stories. So it's a great pleasure to be discussing this really important subject with you, Laurie.
Good. So good to see you, Janice. Great. It's always fun talking sales strategy with you.
Oh, it is. I've been looking forward to this one because we're always talking about this. Last week, if you missed us, where were you if you missed us? Last week, we were discussing mastering sales, hiring, and top performers. We're looking at what was wrong with the current sales recruitment methods and the costly mistakes we've all made. And we're not alone, because 46% of new sales hires fail within 18 months. Now, if you look at what we were talking about, and please do go back and listen to the recording, the LinkedIn live recording, we were talking about predictive validity and how this correlates to on-the-job performance. And it identifies the right salespeople in the right roles and enables them to really excel in their role. So this week, we're talking about they're now in role. How are we going to unleash hidden potential? So what stories have you got for us, Laurie, about some of the problems that sales teams are having?
Well, I have a laundry list of problems. I don't know which you'd like first, but let's start with the fact that so many sales teams don't have strong sales management. We get the top sales rep. Oh, they did such a great job. We're going to promote them. And they're going to be a leader, and they're going to run a team. And they've never been trained to do that, but that's okay. Just tell them what you did, and, don't allow for anyone's personal style or anything like that. It just assume that everyone can do exactly what you did to be successful. I mean, that doesn't work well. And yet it perpetuates. It's happened time after time. I was just reading there was a little article in the Harvard Business Review about how, in the past, leadership would talk about, well, who should we promote? And the manager would always recommend the next person, a leader would recommend a next manager. And now what some of the studies are showing strengths in addition to evaluating and knowing who is a strong candidate, we definitely, you and I are both, going to talk about that all day long, but to let people have an environment where people can volunteer if they want to move up if they want to be promoted, it should be okay to raise your hand. It's going to be encouraged and not just like something nobody ever really talks about. And if you don't speak up, you're never going to be considered. But instead of just management picking and leadership picking, now people can throw their ring in the hat. And that's, there's some good results from that. I still think we want to know who they are first, and we want to hire in stronger candidates. If they're really strong in sales and not strong in sales management, you know, I'd really want to find a way to keep them in sales as a more senior person or having some responsibility, but don't just promote someone because they're good at sales.
Yeah, it's two different skill sets, isn't it, really? And it's crazy that we think that a top sales performer is naturally going to be a great manager. So where are we going wrong? Why are we not getting it?
Well, I don't know if I can answer that question today. That's a tough one, but if you add in other issues like inconsistent sales process or non-existent sales process, and then the fact that all that factors into the reps' performance, we don't know if we've hired in strong reps in the first place. If we haven't, then we kind of get what we get. We don't really know, but there are going to be problems with reps. The process, if it's not consistent, it's not going to help reps bring opportunities to closure, you know, one way or the other. And it's just going to leave more hanging out for the status quo, for people to just go, you know what, I just can't decide right now. I'll get back to you. And that's the worst, you know, if we're just letting opportunities turn into just an extended length of time, they don't come to closure, or our buyers can't make up their minds, and we don't know how to help them. That's what we need to know, is how we can help our buyers make decisions and teach them how to do that and guide them in how to do that.
Yeah. So it's really about, you know, what are the strategies for creating a stronger, more effective sales team in order to help the buyers to make those decisions. So, you know, what are some of the strategies?
Well, I want a sales manager who will hold the reps accountable, first and foremost. We need them to be coachable, and we need them to coach their reps. Not a, Janice, what number are you at? You know, what are you going to do? You know, it's almost end of the month. Got anything that's going to close? Like, that's not coaching, right? That's pipeline questions. So we need a separate time to talk with our reps every week, if not more. More would be great, in order to help them grow and develop based on the skill set that they brought to the job, and how we can help them develop their consultative selling abilities, their value selling abilities, their, you know, relationship skills, and how well they reach decision makers, and how well they ask those early questions, and what types of questions are they asking. So there's so many things that are important.
Okay, so let's unpack some of those, because you've mentioned some really interesting competencies. Talking about coaching and the consistency of coaching, we know some research that has looked at this and looked at, you know, how often, the question is, how often should I be coaching? And it's actually more is better, isn't it? Not coaching the deal, but coaching the person. The problem is, I don't know if you would agree with this, is often we don't know where the gaps are to know what to coach. So it's about understanding the individual, what they're not doing, or what they're not doing well enough in order to get that deal over to the next level. So if they haven't, you know, got good closing techniques, or if their mindset on money isn't where it should be, that it's about really understanding the individual and then the nuances of that individual, to know what specific thing is going to have the impact in order to make that seller a better seller and better for the customers as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a mix of the teachable skills and those things that, you know, we bring with us, how we receive feedback, for example, how coachable we are. I mean, that's one of the most important things in a hire to me is we know this from research too, is that coachability is so critical for success. And there are, there are different ways you can try to learn how coachable your rep is. Again, I would want to do it in a more formal manner, but just being able to see how someone receives feedback and then asking them to change up, do a role play and then change it up a little bit. It's fascinating to see how well people do that, because sometimes, especially if they're interviewing for a job, usually it's a bit stressful, right? And that's why I like the approach that we take. But if someone was doing role plays and then they changed things up and asked the person that is looking to be hired to change their response and to give a different answer, it's very hard for them to do it well under pressure.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And that's not just in hiring, that's in the existing team as well.
Yeah.
These are skills that we need to nurture and hone in the existing skills. And if they're not there, then that's going to have an impact on the bottom line.
Yeah. It definitely will. And, leaders should know that you can bring in reps that will do much better hitting their numbers if they don't have a lot of issues. If they're not motivated, if they're not, if they don't have a strong outlook, if they don't have high commitment, all those things that we're looking for, if they're not motivated, it doesn't really matter how hard we try to teach them anything, Janice, because they're just not gonna. Some people, it's just not the right fit for them. And you'd be much better off taking that money that you're paying them and investing it in someone who has a lot of those skills, enough of those skills that they would be recommended to be hired. Desire, a strong outlook, supportive beliefs, and not sabotaging themselves.
Yeah.
And the team, I might add too, when someone is like that on your team, it can bring the whole team down, right? Because maybe this is a top rep, they hit some numbers, but they're very negative and they have that negativity around the team. It's much like an athletic team where all the other players feel like, hey, how come they get away with it?
Yeah.
And I don't, it's crazy.
It's like a race to the bottom, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
You don't have those high standards that everyone signs up for and agrees to, and there's an invested interest to maintain those high standards, but it needs to start from the top, go through the managers down to the all of the sales rate and the entire sales operation.
Yeah, and don't think that doesn't affect the others on the team, I guess is my point.
Yeah.
It's not just the management issue with the rep. It's everybody's issue when there's someone like that. It's like poison.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love what you said about desire. One of our coaches, I love the phrase that he used. It's the difference between those that can sell and those that will sell. Having that desire, that kind of intrinsic drive in order to get the job done and get over the hurdles and, get around them, get under them. But, you've really got that innate drive. And that's something that you need to have throughout your team, because it's not something that you can train. Right.
Yeah, it's there or it's not. And we can't make people be motivated. I can't inspire you, I can't motivate you. You have to be open to being inspired, and you really motivate yourself. I think we motivate ourselves. And so if you can't shake it off, it's going to be a new month from when we're recording anyway, in a couple of days. This is evergreen. So hopefully whenever someone's listening to it, it's, it's either end of the year, it's a new year. And this is a time to talk to yourself and think about what you want to do in your future, for next quarter and in the upcoming year, because you can change it at any point, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, to answer the question of how often you need to be coaching, because I've heard people say this before, and they think they're doing a good job when it's like monthly, patting yourself on the back, manager. I'm doing this monthly. And it's interesting. The research says that when it's less frequent, quarterly, monthly, even bi-weekly, the gains are only plus 2 to 5% improvement in sales quartile. But when you move it up towards daily, weekly and daily, then you're talking about plus 9% and higher, even up to 17% sales quartile increases. So, it makes a massive difference.
Yeah.
The frequency and the quality of coaching.
Yes. And so if nothing else, and you're listening to this, your manager, just start booking more regular times. Don't cancel them because somebody has a sales call. They can do sales calls at other times. There may be an emergency and maybe once in a while, but it shouldn't be a regular thing that coaching gets put off for other things. It's really important. And if you have too many reps, your manager with too many reps, that's a leadership issue and it should be addressed. You should get help because you're going to have better results, even with less people that you're more regularly coaching, assuming that they have those characteristics that we want for top reps to have.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we've talked a bit about coaching, and we've talked about the outlook and drive. What about other competencies, sales specific, that are predictive and validated? What would be another one that we need to look at within our existing team?
So we talked about coaching, talked about tactical skills, right? Things like, there's something that is as simple as being comfortable discussing money, being able to stay in the moment. These are critical things that so we can coach on that a little bit. I can help people to be a little more comfortable discussing money. Sometimes there are people that grew up like I did, where nobody talked about money, just very rude. You don't ask anyone anything about money. And some people are so ingrained in that they may have a hard time. But, in sales, you have to be able to get over that. And we talk about something called a supportive buy cycle. And I like talking about that because I believe that can be taught. Supportive buy cycle is how I shop as a consumer. And I expect that that's what my buyer will do too, that they'll do the same thing. So for example, if I like to shop around and get 3 quotes and, look for the lowest price and ask everybody and poll all my friends and spend a good amount of time doing it. If my buyer pushes back and says, you know what, Janice, I'm going to look around, just want to see what's out there. If that's what I do, I totally understand. And I would say, oh, sure, of course, take your time. But if I have a supportive buy cycle in that I don't do that, I don't shop around, I find a value and I just buy it. It's a different mindset. You can teach yourself. There are ways you can support yourself to do this better. And I had to do that because I used to shop years ago, like pre-pandemic, for better airfares. I did not want to sit by someone who paid less in their seat than I did. And it was probably the way I was raised, to value a nickel, and never let a penny stay on the ground. And, very, very tight about, keeping money And so I learned to just not do that. I just, I stopped doing that. I looked for where I wanted to go, looked for a fair price, and booked it.
Yeah.
And I've done that for years ever since. You can also carry around more money in your wallet, or your purse. You can do different things to build a different relationship with money, because that's an important one. And to think, if you're selling something that's $30,000 and you feel like that is such a lot of money, it's very hard to sell, and you have to come to grips with the fact that, well, $30,000 for the services that we provide is an amazing deal. And if I believe that, I can sell that. So those are some things we don't always talk about, and they're not always in interviews.
And I think it's such a great point, Laurie. I think this is pretty fundamental, because even within families, I haven't got patience. So I hate shopping. So I will go more or less within reason. The kind of first thing, because I value my time, I just go for it. I go into a shop, I see something, I buy it, I'm out of there. And if I've spent a little bit more for it, I've saved the time, so when I have a buyer that wants to think about it, I'm thinking, what is there to think about? Because I don't do that.
That's a great story.
That's my brother. He's always, that's a lot of money. We're in the same family, but we've got completely different views about money. So everything to him is expensive. And so, and for me, I don't even think about it at all. I've already brought it and I've moved on.
Right. And if you factor in your time, for those of us that used to shop around and around and around, I mean, and that no decision, people will never buy that sauna or that hot tub or whatever it is that they were looking for, because they just cannot come to a decision. It costs them, time and missed opportunity.
And exactly to your point, if you have that, then it's going to affect your results. The way that your expectations of your buyers, you're going to let them off the hook. You're not going to help them to buy, and it's going to affect your results. So it's understanding how the individuals in your team, understanding what makes them tick, where are their strengths, where are the gaps, what are the things that you need to support them on. This is a process that we're talking about, Laurie, isn't it?
Self-knowledge, as well as managers understanding the reps on their team, and then the leaders understanding the managers on their team, because they're all opportunities. It's not a cookie cutter. I mean, this is a funny thing about sales training. For so many years, we'd have a class that everybody attended about closing skills or about qualifying, and they're varying degrees of knowledge. And we would just make those that knew this stuff just suffer through it, and they'd be mandatory usually. And there's so many different, better ways to do things now that we don't have to do that. But it's, we almost need a customized approach for each of the reps on our team for what it is that they need to develop for themselves, that some of the hard skills and the soft skills.
I think this is an excellent point. And thank you so much, Sonia Martin. I'm glad you're finding this discussion really interesting. If you've got any questions or anyone that's on this call listening to Laurie and I discuss how to maximize your team live, please do post your questions. Also, Laurie, we want to ask this group that are on live, the audience, or those that will listen to the recording, if they want to hear more from us. Because Laurie and I was talking about next year, weren't we? Are we going to continue? If you want to hear more of these discussions, please do message Laurie or myself and let us know you enjoyed what you're hearing, you want to hear more, and also let us know what subjects you want us to be discussing as well. We are here for you, Laurie, aren't we?
Yeah, I certainly want to have more discussions, so I hope we do.
Oh, thank you. What's the best sales team structure, Laurie? Thank you very much for this question. And what are the benchmark metrics metrics and capacities? Great
Wow.
question. Love this.
That's a big topic. I mean, it depends the structure, meaning, you know, I don't know if this is an enterprise size team or enterprise, they're calling on enterprise or mid-size or SMB. Is it a startup? Is it, you know, a tenured company? So my first answer is it depends. Unfortunately, I wish I could be more specific. And then benchmark metrics and capacities would relate to that as well. I mean, we really would need more information about what the team is doing, but happy to talk. B2B SaaS startup. Okay. So I don't think we want to just drill on that right now. I know we have limited time, Janice, but I'm happy to talk to that person.
Yeah, and I think that what I love about this, they're already talking about metrics and benchmarks.
Yeah.
This is what we love. Now, if you're a startup, B2B, the way you structure your sales operation at this point, and you're structuring it with a view to scale. So it's really about understanding, I think, your market, your customers, and that helps you to think about the kind of structure you want to have. Now, you can have the traditional structure of sales, or you can have more the kind of pod structure of sales. There's so many more structures in sales now, but it's really about thinking about your market and how you want to scale, and that will help to inform the kind of structure that you have. But the key thing is, I think, Laurie, and I'm sure you'll agree, whatever structure you have to put the benchmarks, the metrics in place, thinking about the activity of how you're going to achieve your goals and what you need to measure. What activities do you need to measure so that the team that's in place, their behaviors is actually what you want them, they're doing exactly what you want them to do.
Right. And if I could mention one more thing regarding a startup is have your messaging down. It's not the sales person's job to figure out the value. This needs to be done in advance by marketing and it will develop and morph over time, but that's something that we've run into. We talked about that a little bit last time about new reps coming on and not having clear messaging and not knowing the value prop. And, you know, you've got to have all that in place. That's the biggest challenge I've seen in startups typically, is that people are not clear sales department wide on those things.
I love this question, Anna Bulshi. Thank you so much for posting that. We're going to connect with both me and Laurie, so that we can continue this conversation. It would be absolutely really interested to see what this, aren't you, Laurie, what the B2B SaaS startup is, what product and service they're selling. Really curious here. So make sure you connect with us afterwards and see if we can help you further with that. But, you know, in wrapping up, Laurie, what one thing would you want to share with this audience to wrap up?
Don't forget the fundamentals. Fundamentals are the foundation for everything. A lot of the fundamentals in sales have not changed over time. Some things have, but lots of things have not. So don't think that you need a new silver bullet. You know, there really aren't any silver bullets out there that I've ever seen. But you know, the foundational elements like your messaging and bringing on the right people and having consistent training and onboarding, and, you know, having promotion and development plans in place. All those things are critical for the success of the team and for the revenue growth in the company.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much, Laurie. And please do remember, if you want to hear more from Laurie and myself next year, tell us that you've enjoyed what we've posted so far. Please do comment and like it. Any questions that you have, please do share them with Laurie and myself, but also what you'd like us to discuss next year, if you'd like to see us on. So we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Laurie. It's been an absolute pleasure. I really look forward. Hopefully we're back again next year. And
fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. It depends on you, team out there, you know, our audience, if we're back.
That's right. Thanks, Janice.
Thank you, Laurie. Take care. Thank you.
All righty. Bye-bye.